Energy Media readers, we've done a fair amount of reporting lately on hydrogen, and particularly blue hydrogen made from natural gas in Alberta. And that is a very fascinating story, but the other part of the equation is how you get it to market, the distribution of hydrogen. And to chat with us today about a study he's recently completed for Guidehouse Research, I'd like to welcome Shane Willett, who's a research analyst with Guidehouse. So welcome to the interview, Shane.
Hi, Markham. Thanks for having me today. Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. So look, Shane, give us an overview of your study, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Yeah, and so it's no secret that the hydrogen economy has kind of taken off with momentum lately. Plenty of publications have addressed the topic, whether it's green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, what have you. But the often, I don't want to say left out part of the equation, as you said, is you have to store it and you have to transport it. You can produce it and then you can use it in fuel cell vehicles, you can use it for industrial applications, so on and so forth, energy storage. But how you get it from the production point to the end point is a major question. It's a key cost component too. It can account for upwards of, there's numerous estimates out there, but 33% of the entire value chain process. And so this report was to take a deeper dive into what the current state of the storage and transportation market looks like. And so it revolves around infrastructure. It takes a look at different technologies. Hydrogen has been around for a long time. So there are some pretty mature technologies, but there are other technologies that are on the fray. And there are inherent difficulties with transporting the fuel. And so this report summarily just wants to kind of pin that market down. How does it look and where do we need improvements?
Sounds good. So are we talking primarily about pipelines to distribute hydrogen?
Great question. So when you say pipelines, there are two different options on the table. You have hydrogen dedicated pipelines and you have natural gas pipelines. Hydrogen dedicated pipelines, there's about 1,600 miles of pipelines in the United States. Most of that is concentrated in the Gulf region of the country because hydrogen is used for oil refining. And natural gas pipelines come with their own inherent set of complexities. And there have been multiple studies done by different countries, different energy grid operators, but it's still to be determined how exactly we can integrate hydrogen into the natural gas grid. We're doing a project right now looking at the potential of that, and it's tough. You have patchworks of policies between different countries. You have different pipeline materials. Hydrogen has its issues with integration into the grid. Some appliances can only tolerate certain blends of hydrogen, anywhere from 0 to 20%. You have safety concerns. Hydrogen has a wider range of conditions it can ignite under compared to natural gas. And so typically when you have hydrogen dedicated pipelines, that's the most cost-effective way to move the fuel. But if you don't have those in place, there's a litany of concerns and hoops you have to jump through to install those pipelines.
Gotcha. My take on this, and we'll see if you agree with me, Shane, is that hydrogen is kind of in the same position that maybe electric cars were, 10 years ago. The promise is there, the infrastructure is still not quite there, the product itself is still, not quite there, but everybody can see that if we can make this thing work, that it's down the road, this would be a really good thing to produce. We can decarbonize heavy industry, we can maybe apply it to long haul trucking, so the benefits are really significant. Is the industry, government and so on, are they putting the effort in and the resources to get us from here to there?
Great question. And I'm pretty bullish on it. I'm super close to the topic. I'm a firm believer. Obviously there are hurdles. If there weren't hurdles, we would have been here already. But I do think, at least in the past 3 to 5 years, we've seen a significant uptick in interest from governments. The tough part is obviously the cost point. In the United States, we have cheap natural gas and use that to produce. That's how we produce almost all of our hydrogen. And you can do that for $1 to $2 a kilogram, whereas green hydrogen, could be 3 to 4 times that amount, depending on your renewable feedstock and so on and so forth. And so, but to the original question about our governments doing enough, I think we're in the right direction. they're asking the questions, which is an important first step. We've seen Japan, we've seen France, they're developing these hydrogen roadmaps, and they really do see it as part of their energy policy future. So I'm optimistic on it. We still have a long way to go. Obviously, there are still barriers to entry, but we're seeing large scale deployments of, green hydrogen projects. And, it's a bit nebulous, but we're moving the needle, if you will. As these deployments continue, I think they were heading in the right direction.
Well, this will be the last question, Shane, but give us your top 2 recommendations or observations in your study.
My top 2 recommendations / observations would be that industry from production point to endpoint need to continue to work together, and they need to loop in governments as well. This is a new area. Government officials don't know too much about green hydrogen immediately. They have so many other concerns. But it's important for industry to continue to educate public officials on, how can we effectively bring hydrogen to the fore. There's no sense in wasting time on policies that aren't going to advance the hydrogen economy. So continuing to have that relationship between government and industry is key. Second, we need to, I have a variety of recommendations. I could go on. But second, we need to continue to study how hydrogen will look in the future. And we need to make the decision, I think, sooner rather than later. Are we going to inject this into the natural gas grid? It's still natural gas grid. I think we have, if you include distribution pipelines, we have around maybe 2.5 million miles of natural gas pipelines in the United States compared to the 1,600 miles of hydrogen infrastructure. And so if we really want to scale up the hydrogen economy, are we going to build, another 2 million miles of hydrogen pipeline? It just seems crazy. So leveraging the natural gas infrastructure, I think, is what we have to do. How exactly that looks, and obviously there have been studies, there's been commissions to look at this sort of stuff, and it's not easy. But I think if we really want to upscale hydrogen, that's how it has to happen. Other methods of transporting the fuel just aren't as cost effective.
Sure, fair enough. Well, Shane, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate your insights. And because this is such an important story and a kind of a hot story these days in the energy circles, I have no doubt that we'll be coming back to chat with you in the future about hydrogen distribution.
Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot for your time, Markham.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.